Hello and welcome to the Gauntlet Hangouts. And today we are trying a one shot, sort of a partial one shot of Tides of Gold, which is a forged in the dark hack for doing a kind of a version of sort of a high seas piracy, privateer hunting setting. This one is a little bit unusual in that it's not, say, like Seventh Sea, a very classic adaptation. Instead, there's a very different world. The implication is that there were sort of more early, maybe medieval societies that existed, maybe even earlier than that. Definitely not early modern. But that period of societies, and at some point these raiders came in, bringing with them Renaissance technologies, and only through a sort of coalition of forces where they fought back. But then various Renaissance technologies, including ship designs and guns and things like that, have passed down, though the highest elements of their tech remain kind of artifacts in this world. And we've got three continents, a sort of a southern continent, which certainly has a more sort of Central African feel to the historical naming and cultures that are there. Velia, which is a kind of a northern continent that I would say has maybe a Southern European sense. It's just generally. And then Argyros, which I'd say is Greek, Middle Eastern, just as a general theming. This is all very vague, and we probably won't dig into the history too much, but that's what has been built up here. So we're going to be going through and doing character creation, picking our ship, and then playing things out. If you hear me going, oh my God, that's because I have two kittens, and they are both trying to be on the desk, and I'm trying to stop them, and the older cat is still not digging the kitten, so the older cat is also, you may get to hear her whining in the background. Anyway, what we're going to do is usual stuff. I do want to mention, as a typical Gauntlet game, we are using the X card as our safety tool. And I would like to, before we get too far in, just see if we have any lines and veils, given this this atmosphere and this setting. My typical line is no torture. Torture does not work. It is off the table. Bad guys might do it, but we fade to black, and it's usually done as something awful. Tyler, also, I do want to mention this as well. By the way, the boats have a front and a back. And I'm going to apologize right now for those of you who know nautical terms. Please use them. Don't expect me to. I'm very bad at this. I have problems with left and right when we play online games. So there we go. Tyler, anything you want to mention as a line or a veil for today's test play?
There's nothing in particular. Sexual assault is generally one that I kind of, put out there. But other than that, nothing in particular.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, just the usual tone stuff, sexual violence against children, stuff like that.
That seems fair. Alan?
Nothing other than that, but as I often say on these occasions, because I'm old and British, I have to veil sex.
Okay, fair enough. And Adam?
Nothing specific, no.
Okay. All right, so we are going to go through and on our character keeper here, and I'll drop that link in the chat again for everybody just to make sure. Copy that. And we'll have people look at this and have people talk about which playbook they're leading to. Now Alan wants to do the captain. And actually, before we even start that, I guess I should ask you this. Does anyone feel strongly about pirates, pirate hunters, or privateers? Like, does one of those things appeal to someone like much more strongly than the others?
If I can, I'm happy to go with what we do as a majority, but I would rather, it would make me happy if we managed to steer away from actually being pirates.
Okay, so pirate hunters, maybe? Can we?
Yeah, hunters or privateers, either one, but I just think it'd be kind of fun to not jump to the pirate. But if everybody's all into pirating, that's fine too. I like a good, Avast Me Hardy.
No, I agree with that. I would leaning away from pirates myself.
Well, then we've got a couple of voices for that. Unless there's a strong objection, let's go with the pirate hunters. I'll
Pirate
hide
Hunter.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me hide those other two tabs. And so now we know that. Let's look at the PC choices. So we have the captain, the collector, compass, old timer, scamp, scoundrel, firebrand, and exile. And anyone. So this is more than are in the actual book itself. The rules materials has 5. So there are several new playbooks in this thing that Cass has put together. By the way, the designer Cass put this sheet together. It's really lovely. It's done a great job with that. So that's very exciting. So Tyler, do you have a strong one or two that you're thinking about?
I'm looking at Compass and Old Timer. Both of those kind of appeal to me, but there's a whole bunch of them on here that are awesome if other folks are big on those. But Compass or Old Timer, I kind of drawn to.
Stephen, any of these that like one or two that you're thinking about?
Well, I was looking at the firebrand. It sounds like that would be a very fun one to have in the game.
Okay.
I mean, I'm willing for somebody else to take that, but if nobody else takes that, I'm taking it.
Okay. And Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about the collector, I think is my main.
Okay. Well, then let's do firebrand. Stephen, you do the collector, and then if you had to choose between the compass and the old timer, which would you take, Tyler?
I think I'm taking the Old Timer.
Okay, then I'm going to try. Apparently, there's a thing you can do to like click. Oh yeah, I accidentally did that wrong, didn't I? Okay, that's the compass. Okay, so I'm going to close the compass. I'm going to close the scoundrel. This is a new technique I've never seen, by the way. The closing of columns on these sheets. So
That's kind of clever.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask her how. I think it's she. I think she goes she her, and if not, I'll have to look that up. How they did this. So we'll get that. So the picks that you're going to make are you're going to choose a background. And that represents your family's legacy and knowledge you were exposed to. And once per session, you can reference knowledge from this background when you ask the GM a question. And let's see where those things are in here. Look at the playbooks. Do we have a thing where the background is at? Is that up here? Okay, so you can pick. There are different backgrounds and heritage and things like that. So you've got some drop downs for that. So heritage is where you come from. Background is something that you've done in your previous time. And each of those backgrounds, the background will give you dots in 2 of the skills. So for example, Alan, because you chose scholar, that will give you, let me see here. Where I'm looking at the big list here. A dot in study and a dot in consort. And then you're going to get those. And then you're also going to get, you have 3 dots already assigned. And then you're going to get to 2 more dots for actions. Does anyone have any questions about what those abilities mean? Has everyone played Forged in the Dark before, or Blades in the Dark?
I have not played Blades in the Dark or any Forged in the Dark game.
Okay, so let me look at the skills again to kind of see what I should probably mention. In Blades in the Dark, I played them pretty loose in terms of what skill can be used for what thing. Sway is personal persuasion. Consort is essentially hitting the streets and talking with people and more general partying kind of thing. Attune is our magical skill. Wreck is violent action, like to destroy things. Skirmish is like sword play. Prowl is stealth. Finesse is actually often used for delicate swordplay or even for firing guns or rifles. And then hunt is stalking someone. Study is our scholarly skill. Survey is casing a joint. And then tinker is our mechanical skill. And essentially, when you go to do something, we'll look and we'll figure out which skill is appropriate for that. And you get the guild craftsman for the collector, Adam. So that gives you a dot in tinker and a dot in finesse.
Yep.
Okay. And to center, we'll give you a dot in prowl and a dot in attune, Stephen.
So we should have 5 dots scattered across those 12 actions. Am I right?
Believe so. I believe it should have started with 1 dot. You got 2 dots from your background, and then you get an additional 2 dots to distribute yourself. Now, one of the things to remember is this is a little bit different from standard Forged in the Dark in that we are doing PBTA. So having a 0 in something is still a legit score in this version.
I love that Tyler, you're gonna be a folk hero.
Yes.
If not now, certainly by the end of the game.
You'll also pick a close friend and a rival. Those are down below. And your anchor is the how do I put this? It's the thing you turn to, a person or a thing you turn to help relieve stress in between actions. It would be the vice in standard Forged in the Dark.
Lowell, remind me again what my my folk hero, its knowledge of myths and legends. What does that give me? My background give me?
So that will give you command and sway.
So I get 1 in each of those to start.
That is correct.
Okay.
I guess you probably generate a roll for your party too.
Is there something special I do to put my X in there? Or is it just an X?
I think it's just an X. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing because it doesn't appear until you hit the turn.
Okay. It's got a conditional formatting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are chains again?
So chains are something that's going to come up later. Essentially, chains are trauma that you may eventually develop. So at the start, you're not going to have any chains.
I think in this game, it's basically the more stress you go through, the stronger you need to attach yourself to your anchor until eventually you just cannot leave
Right.
it and you have to retire.
Essentially, the chains to your anchor represent the traumas that you normally build up. In Standard Forge in the Dark, you can get 4 traumas before you're out of the game, and that means that you've used up all your stress.
So do we select a chain? Because chains are of different kinds, aren't they?
Yes, I
Or
don't.
do
I
we
don't believe
leave
you
that
start. I
until-
don't think you start with a chain at the beginning. Just your anchor. I'm going to step away for just a moment, and I'll be right back. And then I'm going to have people give us an introduction for their characters, if that's okay.
Now, I've decided to call my character Leandro because if it wasn't for Leandro's birthday tonight, I would be playing masks with him. So I owe him this one.
Yes. Well, happy birthday to Leandro. If you're watching.
Well, if he's not at dinner with his family, I want to know.
Eventually watching. Maybe he'll catch us later. If you hear growling, that's not my stomach. It's my dog rolling around.
I'd like to declare now I have no animals in the room at all. Any distractions are entirely my own. Now, I'm really pleased to be playing this because I foolishly, an act of hubris, I've never run Blades in the Dark, and I offered to run this at a con the weekend after this one coming. So this is very important to me.
I'm interested to see how it adapts with the PBTA style rolling. I think that's going to be interesting. How many special abilities do we start with, Lo?
You should start with 1 dot. Special abilities, you just start with the one that comes with
Whatever
your...
you start with.
Yeah. And through advances, you'll get more.
Gotcha. Okay. So I need to do friend and rival. What you do?
So for items and load, I can choose 5 items, including standard items that are from the drop-down menu.
Here is the beautiful part of that, Stephen. You don't need to choose that. What you'll do is when we actually go on a mission, you will tell me what your load is, like light, which means that people can't tell that you're carrying. Normal, which people know that you're kind of carrying, and then heavy is like, oh my god, they're going to go kill somebody. And then when we actually play out the mission, you will choose your item when you go to use it. So you don't have to select anything. Essentially, you use up your load as the operation, the score goes on. So don't have to make any of those choices at the start.
It's one of the best parts of this game.
Yeah.
I am choosing the Hatton rapier and pistol because
Just as a
that just seems
consistent-
right.
You can always have that, regardless of anything else. That seems fair. Well, Tyler, if I were to ask you to tell us about your character, would you be willing to give us a sense of how you're picturing them?
Yes. Can we notoriety, is that heat?
That is our heat. Eventually we'll get heat, yes.
Okay, just checking. I'm picking my scar at the moment, which is my special being an old guy thing. I just like having chilling account, even if we don't have heat to start off with this game. All right. I'm playing Old Skinner, who is the old timer. I picture him in his he appears to be ancient, but probably he's just like early 60s. But he's, so wrinkled, and the sun and the wind have turned his skin practically to leather. He's skiing, I believe, which is the northern continent.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Sika. That's it. Sika League. I get the impression very Venice, Genoa, that sort of feel to it, northern Italy. But he's been at sea since he was just a tiny little swab. And he considers himself a storyteller. He collects stories along the way. He's served in all sorts of boats, from the Navy to a whaler to maybe a few things that were a little less reputable. You find yourself in a place and you got to get along to go along. But as a general rule, he's a fairly decent, nice person who cares deeply about the crew staying positive and doing their job. He knows what happens in a ship when people begin to fight and you start getting strife amongst people, and that inevitably ends in blood or drownings, one, sometimes both. And let's see, other than that about him, I did take that his anchor is regret. And I'll probably want to play this, figure this out a little bit maybe in play. But I have a feeling there was a beautiful lady in a port that I was supposed to go back to. And months turned to years out at sea, and I was too embarrassed to try to go back after that length of time, and it haunts me still in my lonely aboard the ship life.
And let me ask you this: Old Skinner, that's a pretty colorful name. Where does that come from?
He'll tell folks that it's because, when you go ashore, if you pick up animals, he's the one that dresses them. But he actually picked it up at a much younger age when he was known for carrying a flaying knife as a weapon and would quite often go for more painful attacks on people to stop them fighting than killing attacks.
Tall, short?
He probably was fairly tall when he was older, somewhere in that, maybe 6 foot range. But his legs have gotten so bowed now that he's probably like 5'7" or 8. I mean, he's crunched down and very bow-legged. And if he ever gets off the ship, he wanders around like a drunken guy. He's so used to being on ship at this point.
And who's your friend?
My friend is, let's see down here the name. Yes. Lavrentos, who's a traveling sage. He when we exchange stories. He gives me interesting things he hears about. I tell him the wild things that I see in my travels. He's my good buddy, and it always seems like, when I get to port, he's around, and sometimes he'll even go to sea. And my enemy is Veltri, a pirate queen.
How did that come about?
I like to think that that maybe I knocked off someone that she cared about, and she swore vengeance against me. Probably when we both were younger, and I'm older than her probably, but I bet she's in her 50s, tough as nails out there, and she still swears to get even with me for some lost love that I sent down to the depths.
Yeah, because you're a terrible person. I love it. Yeah. All right, that gives me a good sense. We'll go through the people's introductions, and then we'll look at the choices for our ship. Stephen, can you tell me about Antonio?
Yes, Antonio is the firebrand character. He is basically a student radical who remained radical after he was no longer a student. His anchor is an institution. I'm going to say it's the Geological Society, which actually does geology, but it was mostly the group at the university where the radicals hung out, and most of the members are still radical, and they're loosely organized around politics. They don't exactly agree on what politics, but they all agree on that social reform is necessary. And he's the kind of guy who tends to jump in and help right injustices that he sees.
And you've got a couple of dots in a tune, so you are a little more tied into kind of the strange magics of the world. Is that the sense that you have? That is it a more philosophical thing, or do you think that your character is tied into those magics?
Well, I mean, we're in a world where magic is part of the natural world, so he regards it as this is something that you try to explore the nature of it, but it's definitely magical rather than purely science.
And what does Antonio look like?
I'd say that he's about 25. He still dresses a bit like a student, not very fancy, but if you look closely, you see that all of his clothes are well made, good quality. He's not poor, and he's got long brown hair that's tied back in a ponytail, and one earring.
Is he relatively new to this life as a pirate hunter?
I think he's been doing it for a couple of years.
Okay, so not a total novice. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it gives him a chance to travel.
And tell me about your friends and rivals.
Yeah, my friend is Charis, a reluctant oracle, who is also, I mean, the oracles are genuine oracles, although Charis can't always control what their prophecies are. But whenever Charis tells me something, I know to pay attention. And my rival is Orsino, an infamous betrayer.
Oh, infamous betrayer of?
Basically anybody. He's like Indiana Jones's rival in the first movie. It's just he always shows up to whatever I'm investigating, and you always know he's going to double cross you.
Oh yes. Oh, okay. But well spoken enough to perhaps be able to weasel his way in. Okay, that gives me a good sense. Alan, tell us about your Captain Leandro.
Yes, Leandro is a man in his mid-30s, tall, quite sunburned and swarthy, dark hair, the inevitable beard, very fit, very athletic, very handsome. Um, Pirate Hunter was not his destiny. He is probably a younger son of some reasonably well-off family in the Seeker League. He was perhaps intended maybe for the church, or certainly he was well educated at the Dexian Academy. But events took a turn. I think that his anchor is his beloved Sabina, and something went wrong in his youth that meant that the path he was on, which would have led to marriage to Sabina, etc., was sadly disrupted. I don't quite know what got in his way, but something did.
Okay.
So yes, he's a scholar, or he's trained as a scholar, so he has some knowledge of cultures around the world. His anchor is his beloved Sabina. His friend is Magda, a creature of the deep, and I think he saved Magda. Perhaps she was caught up in a whaling expedition, an attack by a whaling expedition, or maybe the illegal activity of some pirates, perhaps, that were trying to capture her. I think she's a mermaid.
Okay.
And he saved her, one of his early missions as a pirate hunter. And his enemy is Rito, a shipping magnate. And it might be that Rito was behind the attempt to capture mer people. I don't know, maybe. That would tie them together. So
That makes sense.
So that's Leandro. Whether Leandro is his real name, I think, is open to question. He's Leandro to the crew, but he may be somebody else to Sabina.
And still dresses fairly nice. Does he have a dominant color?
Yes, a kind of rusty red is his color of choice, and that carries through into his captain's leathers, and indeed the highlights of his captain's hat.
And the trinkets that you have, what's the most unique thing about them?
I think the unique thing about the trinkets is that they are gifts from Magda, and therefore the mer people don't gift land dwellers often, and therefore I think that is what is unusual about them.
How does a mer person communicate?
I think probably with speech.
Okay.
And perhaps she's learned a little Velian and he's learned a little Mer.
Okay. Excellent. It gives me a good sense of that. Let's come to Adam, last but not least. Adam, can you please tell us about Filomeno?
Yes. So Filomeno is an individual from Avalia. He's probably like in late 30s, early 40s. And he is an artificer, specializes in like clockwork automata. He spent most of his life sort of like working to construct relatively large machinations in order to help build like structures or to build ships eventually. And yeah, he spent most of his life just sort of like working an honest existence. But he's always had a passion for building little clockwork automata, I think.
Is that something that was just kind of came up as a hobby, or was there some event or person that kind of pushed you towards that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he just sort of spent a lot of time building these very large, very simple objects, right? Just like mechanical cranes and whatnot, or very specialized objects. And sort of got him to thinking, could we use this to create smaller, more precise things? It was just sort of like a curiosity to him, I think. But one that he spent most of his free time doing.
And what do you suppose a warbot looks like in this context?
Yeah, so I think the warbots are. It's a very good question. They're probably relatively simple objects.
Are they like animal sized, or what are you imagining? Or are they figurines?
The land ones are probably like the size of a large boar or something. But
Okay.
I'm sure they have really large ones that they'll like mount to ships, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That are essentially just like automated, like lines of cannonades, essentially.
Okay.
That can seek out and target individuals.
And Ginny, the warbot that you're associated with, what do they look like?
Yeah, so I think Ginny is sort of relatively unassuming. It looks kind of like an electric, like some sort of like a. If you'd let me, they might be able to fly.
Okay.
But they're like an eel or like a feathered serpent, essentially.
Okay.
They're kind of an unusual one. And the way that they attack, essentially, is they've got like spring-loaded mechanisms in them, so they'll just sort of like point themselves at a target, and then will just like launch themselves like a spear.
Okay. I like that. That is a very cool idea. And what does Filomeno look like? How are they dressed?
Yeah, so he is. His hair is probably just sort of starting to gray. He dresses fairly simply in like probably most of the time he's sort of wearing like like workers' clothing essentially. So sort of maybe like we see him with a thick leather apron on a lot, thick clothes, usually gloves. He probably has like a collection of lenses. Probably just has a bunch of stuff hanging off of him at all times. Just like every tool that he might ever need is just carried on his person all the time.
That makes sense. Let's come to look at our crew choices here. So let's go ahead and go to our Pirate Hunters tab. And so what we're going to decide, first of all, and I'm looking around to figure out exactly where all of this goes here, is we're going to decide our ship type. I mean, we know there were pirate hunters, but there are some choices about what that means in terms of our ship. And I'm looking where that is on our thing. Oh, here's what it is. You can be a brig, which is a jack of all trades. It's average at everything and excels at nothing. You can have a merchantman that can store the most cargo and house a larger crew, but is vulnerable to attack. You can have a sloop. It's the smallest ship, but it's also the fastest and well-armed for attacks. And then you could also have a war galley, which is designed for war. It is durable, well-armed, and well-staffed, but it is also definitively the slowest. Whatever ship you choose represents a starting vessel. So thoughts on what you want to do? Certainly the merchantman and the war galley are the like ones that cause the most sort of disruption in terms of choices. The sloop and the brig are probably the two easier to kind of work with.
Yeah, the sloop seems, if we're going to be hunting pirates, that seems like the most practical choice.
Well, you got to be able to stop them when you find them, though.
Well, yeah, but you also got to be able to catch them.
Sloop has a firepower of 3. It's just you don't want to get hit.
Catch them, avoid them, destroy them.
Okay. Well, we're going to go with the sloop then. I'm going to close these other ones. So your crew will be known by its reputation and recognized by its flag. So you're going to pick a starting reputation. And that can be ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, or strange.
Do they have any mechanical effect?
They do not.
Well, this is a one-shot. Surely daring.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo. Okay. Choose daring as our reputation. And we would normally have you choose basic colors, but let's go on to choosing special abilities. Your crew can gain 2 different types of special crew abilities and ship abilities. You're going to pick one special ability to start. It can be a crew ability or a ship ability. So Stephen or Adam, why don't one of you pick special ability, and then we'll also have another one picked in a second. Any strong feelings, Stephen?
I see the crew abilities. I don't see where the ship abilities are.
Oh, they're actually the drop down right below the.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, since we're kind of fragile, I would say let's take sturdy to balance that out.
That makes sense. And then, Adam, would you pick a crew ability then?
Yeah, sure. How about Righteous Storm?
Okay, what does that do?
Your ship runs on electricity and has an aura of lightning. Will be
Oh,
boarded by hostiles in the PC. The crow's nest can attack with lightning.
That sounds very, very nice.
Unleash the electric warbot.
good. And then you can, if you want, you're going to have a couple extra points here to buy things. And it says special abilities and cohorts. So you picked an extra special ability. Let's see what it says about cohorts on here. It has the types of them. Let me see how I do that. It would help if I had gotten a printout of this. Well, let's do it this way. We're going to say for the purposes of this that you have access to a couple of upgrades that we can kind of lay claim to in play. A couple of things, like we have a specialized crew, or we have a thing to do that, just to make that easier to go with. And the one other thing that you need to do is, let's see where they have a favored contact. And we have those under I believe, the questionable people there. Your crew playbook includes a list of 5 contacts. Mark the one who is a close friend, longtime ally, or partner in crime. So who would that be? A prison guard, a gang underboss, scout, a money changer, or a wealthy explorer?
This would be our friend.
This will be your friend, yes.
Maybe the wealthy explorer.
I like that. So go ahead and mark them as a either in the plus or the loyal there. Either one will be fine. Now we've got those various crew and quality upgrades. We've got 2 points to pick on those later on. We'll do that as we need to. There are some other things about home ports and other bits that I don't think we need to worry about right now. What we're going to do is, I think we've got enough to work with here, because we're kind of skimming around at the top of this. I'd like to take 5, and when we come back, I'm going to set up a score that you can take a look around at and figure out how you want to deal with it, and then we'll get into the action with it. So let's go to what would be the hour. So it'd be 4 o'clock Eastern, or whatever rounds up to the hour on your various times.
I suppose we need to name our ship.
Yes, that is a good point.
We'll see what the captain's thinking. I suppose that John B. Lee, isn't that the...
And we need to name the ship, and we also need to have a name for the crew itself. Captain?
Well, given that all this electricity we're messing with, something to do with lightning should be in this. I don't know, the lightning bolts?
That could work.
I have to say, I'm not terribly pleased with it now I've said it out loud.
We could go classic reference. We could call it Thunderchild.
Oh, that's kind of nice. The crew could be like the Lightning Legion, maybe.
Children of the Storm.
Ooh, I like that.
Children of the Storm. Children of the Storm for the name of the crew and the ship.
Maybe the Inclement.
Ooh, that's nice.
Inclement. Okay. So you are pirate hunters, and you've been at this for at least some time. Probably had a couple of successful jobs, but you're still very much at the bottom of the ladder here. But you have undertaken this. By the way, if you hear thunder in the background, that is in fact the cat with the roller ball. And I'm apologizing for that right now. I decided to dig that out. But I'll try and mute myself in between. So you have been out, and you have recently heard about a number of vicious attacks by raiders from the east, from Agueros. All of you are from the northern area, but you've heard of a pirate acting out from one of the independent areas to the east by the name of Rabiza. The reason that you're somewhat interested in Rabiza, or have kind of followed up on that, is his name has been mentioned in association with Rito, a person who has operated sort of in the background before, and in particular for you, Leandro, has certainly his name is associated with what happened to Magda. But what you've heard is that Rabiza has been moving along some of the smaller islands near the reefs, places that are essentially somewhat independent villages and towns that are along the outskirts of there, and that they have managed to find one of these villages and kind of quietly secure it as their base of operations. You're not sure about the exact location, but you are pretty sure that they've got a village sort of held hostage, and how they've managed to conceal themselves is uncertain in that. But that is what you're looking for. That is the situation that is on deck. So I am going to start with the captain. And essentially, this is our phase of play where we do the kind of general gathering of information to get info, to ask questions, that kind of thing, to kind of shape the stakes. And I may ask some open questions. You got a sense of that before we move to kind of figure out what you need to do and then go to the engagement role. So, Captain, knowing what you do about, having heard this about Rabiza and this island here, what would be your first step?
We are at sea. Or
Yeah.
are we in port?
You can you can tell me where do you want to start? Do we start at sea?
I think I want to start in port. I think we're more likely to have a range of options to investigate.
What is the name of the port that you're in? This is not a big one.
Shall we say it's in Sika? I know this, so it's Dexia.
Dexia, okay. So right now you're in Dexia, and certainly rumors have come here. So you have the sense that you're on an area that is, a short journey away from where Rabiza must be holed up. What would you do in Dexia?
Well, I think I'd want a word with Antonio, because I know Antonio has a friend who is a reluctant oracle. And I think that I would be wanting Antonio to squeeze his oracular connection.
Antonio?
I am absolutely willing to go see Cheris and to see what they or the Geological Society knows about Rabiza.
So let's start with that. Let's start with you going to speak with Cheris. Do you take the captain along with you?
I think so, yeah.
So tell me, what kind of place is your reluctant oracle set up in? What is the atmosphere? What is the place? Are they doing public readings, or is they hiding their abilities? What is it?
I think they have they have a house. They are, well, no, I think they don't have a house. I think they're living in a rundown tenement. They are not working as an oracle, but I mean they'll do favors for people. They'll sort of sell their services on an individual basis, but they don't like seek out customers from the public.
And Leandra, what's the most, when you get in, you go up to this kind of filthy tenement, off the beaten path. When you finally see Karis, what's the most striking thing for you, or most unexpected thing for you about their appearance?
Is it a he or a she?
Well, do you tell me?
Well, she's blind.
Ah.
Which maybe isn't a big enough surprise, actually. I think she's blind, and she only has one hand.
And she's clearly not blind from birth. This is clearly something that was done to her. Where the eyes look like it might have been a more brutal attack, the hand is cut off cleanly. Like there's no wounds, anything like that. Like whatever happened there was a different thing. And as you come in, she will look up and she will say, "Antonio, it has been some time."
Yeah, and I put a small package of tea on the table, which I know it's her favorite, and she doesn't get it very often. She doesn't get the really good tea very often.
This is generous, which expresses a certain amount of want from your side if you are doing that. And she'll slide it over towards where she's at. Who is this with you?
This is Leandro, my captain.
Your captain.
She'll hear the swish of as his hat comes off, and he bows low. Lady,
Careful where you drag that across the floor. It is not particularly clean.
oh, the gentleman in me must bow low to a woman, particularly when I want something from her. And so I bow low and say, "My lady, I am Leandro, captain of Antonio's ship, and we come in search of your powers and your visions."
What is it that you wish to know?
There is a devil called Rebiza raiding innocent villages away to the east, and we seek his location.
She will say, Antonio, I will need you and your channels to be able to look into this.
I am always happy to assist you.
And she will gesture for you to come forward, and she will take your hands in hers. And what does it feel like when she kind of starts to kind of channel and attune through you?
It's a sort of pins and needles feeling. It's like it starts in my head, and as it goes on, it's like my whole body is just. It's just I feel like I need to twitch, but I know that I need to keep still and focus.
So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you make an attune roll. You're going to be rolling 2d6, and how many dots do you have in attunement?
2.
2. So you're going to roll +2, and then for going to your contact and having her assist you, I'm going to give you another +1. So you're rolling with what the maximum is 2d6 + 3.
That's a 10.
That is a 10. So what is the first thing that you want to know?
Where is Rebiza?
Where is Rebiza? So she will say, I can see there is a set of islands called the Five Daughters. They have a set of hidden bays, trees and woods that make it hard for patrol ships to see through them. And Rebiza is on one of those islands. They are close by one another, but somewhat concealed. What is your second question?
How can we make ourselves appear to be one of their fleets that we can approach undetected?
She will say, you must find out who Rebiza has gone in league with there. If he is quietly doing this, quietly essentially sliding into a bay to hide themselves, there's probably a local mayor or official who is covering them. And they will be the ones who can kind of let you through if they don't know exactly who you are. You're going to have to find out who they are and fool them. Does that seem like a fair answer?
Yeah.
Let's come to our other two adventurers, Old Skinner and Filomeno. And we can assume that you've gotten some of this information. That's a default assumption when we do a planning or information gathering. So who would you talk to? What would you do, Filomeno?
Yeah, so is our goal to, like, kill this pirate?
certainly to bring them to justice, to get their loot, all of those kinds of things. And justice has a very broad definition here.
Sure. So I think we sort of see me probably down by like the engine room, essentially, where I've set up my workshop. And I think I at least am trying to like assemble a device to stun this individual, like an electric device to incapacitate him.
That's an interesting idea. So let's have you do a tinker roll. And essentially what this will do is this is building up an advantage that you can use later to give yourself some positioning for this. Tell me what this thing is going to look like.
Yeah. Maybe what I'm actually doing is I am augmenting my warbot, Jenny.
Okay.
To basically just make it so that it's essentially like a taser, essentially just like a big electric capacitor and then like some metal.
So it'll spring across, and it has this capacitor that when it impacts will let off a stunning bolt of some kind.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. Let's have you go ahead and roll tinker. So you're going to roll 2d6 and add 2.
That is a 6.
That is a total of a 6, huh?
That's a total of a 6.
So you will be able to get this working. You're pretty pleased with the work you've done, and it looks like it's absolutely going to do exactly what you planned it to do.
And I guess I get experience as well.
You would get experience. I believe there is XP on a miss on this. Yes.
Right.
But yeah, you're confident in your abilities. Let's come to Old Skinner. What would you do?
So we've heard about the islands.
Mm-hmm, the five daughters.
But we haven't quite heard which one it will be. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Then I think I'm probably, since we're in port, I'm going from Seaman Bar to Seaman Bar to try and see if I could pick out some rumors of this nefarious pirate or some of the villages down there. I'm trying to find out a little bit about the area.
Sure, that sounds like consort.
Okay, I can agree with that. Did we have a role for a party page?
Oh yeah, it should be in the chat. It's absolutely allowed mongoose.
Aha! I like mongooses to pieces. All right. Here we go. I got +1 in consort, so that gives me a 10.
It gives you a 10. So you are able to go and get information. The possible consequence for this was going to be to start to raise Rabiza's alarm, like word getting back to them. But you will hear that the Diamond Daughter, each of the Otter Islands are named after a particular jewel, but the Diamond Daughter is sort of towards the center, and there is a mayor named Voss who oversees it. And Voss apparently has done very well for himself in the last several months. He looks like the Diamond Daughter Island and his activities. It has to be him that is concealing Rabiza, that is giving them shelter and a port and a hidden area to operate out of.
Ah, all right. And do I happen to hear any rumors about what the townspeople are like? Are they friendly, pleasant, merchanty, mean?
I would say that you know that Voss kind of has strong control, like old money.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking maybe no more than 100, 120 people total across this village. And likely Voss has some people working for him to kind of keep things alert. And undoubtedly Rabiza has some people there.
Gotcha.
But I would say the vast majority of people are probably civilians, fisher folk and carpenters and things like that.
Nice. Alrighty. Thank you, and I will go back and tell my captain and crewmates. I think that this is almost certainly where we can find him.
Well done, Skinner.
Aye, Captain.
Now, Captain, we could do another round of essentially go around if people want to gather further information, or if you want, we can move to doing the engagement role, deciding that we're going to go in and do that. What would you like to do?
I remembered that I do have a move when I am in Velia, which is where we are. Once per session, when in region of your heritage, you can connect, and I'm just wondering if I can connect with perhaps someone who oversees this area, with an idea of finding out what's the dirt on Voss.
That seems like a good thing. What do you want to roll that with?
I think it's probably consort.
That seems like the right way to go. Let's have you go ahead and roll 2d6 and add 1.
Okay. Oh, that's 7.
That's
so
a 7.
On a 7, shall we call him Taddeo Sansino?
Taddeo. Okay.
On a 7 to 9, I owe them something.
And so, Leandro, Taddeo is one of those people who moves goods around. They price things, they move goods around, they assign cost, they do that. They're a fixer of sorts. And Taddeo gets word that you're here and you're looking, and he is pleased to see you when you show up. And he says, Captain Leandro, how are you today?
Always the better for seeing you, my friend Taddeo.
Yes, and this is a glorious moment for me on this day. Have you come to pay me the coin that you owe me?
Of course, I want to, Taddeo. I hate the debt that sits between us.
No more than I.
But I have to say, I'm on a really hot lead that will pay well with your help.
You want more help from me?
Well, last time was so helpful, Taddeo. I want to give you a chance to get in on the ground floor of this this opportunity.
Go on.
Well, there are some pirates operating to the east, and I know exactly where they are. I know exactly how to get in. I just need a little bit of dirt on one of the locals. And I thought to myself, who would know? And I thought of you, Taddeo.
So you already owe me a coin.
Double or quits?
Double or quits it is. 2 coin you owe me.
You, Taddeo, are a gentleman among gentlemen.
I am.
What I need to know is there's a mayor on one of the islands of the 5 daughters. I think it's the Diamond Daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything? Do you have any dirt on him?
You're speaking of Voss, the mayor who
I
runs.
am. So you do know him?
He has been more active of late. I know that he has a profligate son who he tries to keep his thumb on, but who runs about willy-nilly on the island. I also know that he has his position by means of force rather than love.
That's very helpful. That's very helpful, Taddeo. And presumably he wouldn't want any of the difficulties of the sun to come back to haunt him, would he?
That is the thing. Is not he is it will take a while to get him to prise loose from his son.
That's more than I hoped for, Tadeo. Truly, you are an excellent friend, and I hope to see you soon. For now,
you will
farewell.
see me soon. Once you've succeeded with this, you will come and you will give me the 2 coin.
Of course, Tadeo. That is our agreement.
That is our agreement. I said that I only ask about this because our agreement last time was for you to pay the coin then, and yet my palms, which I'm rubbing together greedily, are still empty.
But Tadeo, you have always recognized a good investment. And this, my friend, is rock solid.
All right. I'm a gambling man.
And I, Tadeo, am an excellent bet.
We shall see. Antonio, is there anything else you want to do before we move forward on this? Anything else you want to look into, gather?
I'm not thinking of anything.
Okay, and that is fair. It's easy enough in this game to continue around. Filomeno, is there anything else you wanted to look into or do before we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably offer like my technical services to the captain or possibly to Old Skinner. They probably know more about this type of operation than I do.
So what would that look like? Who are you talking to?
Yeah, maybe I am talking to. I'd probably interpret Old Skinner as having the most experience here, maybe.
Okay. Certainly the oldest.
Sure.
So Old Skinner, where does Filomeno find you?
Probably below decks when I'm, off and eating.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I like walk up to you and I have my, metallic electric eel wrapped around me like a scarf, and they appear to be sleeping right now. I sort of like pat their head a little bit and the electricity sparks. I'm like, oh, I'll have to figure that out later. Oh, Skinner.
Aye.
Skinner, I would simply like to take a moment of your time. I sort of sit down in front of you, and I sort of say, I have been thinking about tools that we might create to make this process, to make capturing this individual easier. I was wondering if you had any suggestions, things that might be particularly hard that perhaps Italics could help us solve.
Well, more than likely, if it's a pirate, he's going to have more men than us. So if you can get something that's like a blunderbuss, something that fires broadly, things that take out or at least hurt those multiples. Pirates are cowardly lot. They see their friend get hurt, they tend to run.
Interesting. Could we carry one of the cannons with us and put grape shot in it?
Cannon mighty heavy. You could get it on a boat, but then you got to get it off the little boat once you get onto the land, and then you got to haul it across the sand, which is not easy, sir.
The boat be able to carry the weight. Perhaps I could create a pair of legs for it.
Cannon with legs, you say, sir?
Well, of course.
Hmm.
What are you going to do? Put arms on it instead? Seems foolish.
Would make loading a much easier. But, the jolly boat will carry it. If you can make it walk, well, I'll tell you, I've never seen a walking cannon before. That'd be quite the thing.
Well, there's a first time for everything, Skinner.
Oh, I suppose there is.
All right. And if you would permit me, Lowell, I would like to attempt to add 4 legs to a cannon that it can walk by itself. What do you think? Too much to do in a single go?
You're muted if you're talking low. Oh, we did hear a phone ring, so it's possible that he is
Sorry.
to answer that.
It's all right.
I just muted myself. But of course, because I don't have the camera on, I can't tell that. Anyway, so that seems like maybe a more of a long-term project kind of thing.
Sure.
Certainly, if you wanted to, we could take a phase for you to start building towards that for the future. But I think maybe, and say, what do they call the small cannons, like the hand cannons?
Like a small gun?
Yeah, like the I mean, maybe you could get it so something like that you could transport one. It wouldn't be a big, like, huge cannon shot, but you could get it to get yourself one good round of large grape shot across. Does that seem fair?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Would I be like creating this thing, or
I
would
think
be
we'll
like-
just do it as a tinker roll to see how
Okay.
well or how terribly it comes across.
Sure, why not? Let's get another terrible tinker fail.
All right.
How does the tender of trinkets move work? Is there a possibility you've got the makings of this already?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, maybe I could yeah, I'm not entirely sure how like the curio rules work.
So dig through your collection for something useful. Tell the GM what you want it to do. And the
All right.
GM will add 1 to 4 curio conditions. So you want these curios, essentially clockwork, to allow you to transport one of these small cannons?
Yeah, I think what I would like is maybe like a mechanical spider, essentially, like a
Okay.
fairly large one, maybe like the size of, I don't know, a large dog.
Probably be a little bit smaller than that, but
Sure.
let's say, let's see here. I'm going to say that it's going to be fragile, it's going to be dangerous, and it will require a good roll. Does that seem fair?
Sure. So I should roll tinker then?
Roll tinker.
All right. That is a 10.
There you go. So you've got this awkward spider small cannon that's preloaded with grape shot. And it will, you can kind of control it from where you're at and have it move. Probably can't get that far away from you.
Yeah.
But it will have one good clear the decks shot.
I have it on a leash.
Okay. And what about you, old Skinner?
I think before we leave port, and I'm hoping, maybe this will fall into my background. I just kind of want to know what ship size and roughly crew size Rabisa travels with. Is that a legend? Is it legend? He famous enough to be legendary?
Yeah, you're sort of hitting on one of your moves there. Is that what you're doing? Or
yeah, I'm using my background move, which is once per session. You can gather information within that knowledge area, which my knowledge area is legends and folklore. And the GM will answer your question as if I rolled a 10+.
So Rabisa, like you, has a sloop. But legendarily, he has a sloop that is able to slip in and out of bays and inlets very well. Like I don't know if it's his crew or his ship, they're able to manage that with unusual skill. But in terms of armaments and so on, he is equivalent to your ship.
And probably doesn't have an enormous crew if they're sailing around in a sloop.
Yeah, probably about the size of yours, maybe a few more.
Excellent. All right then. Thank you. And I'll inform everyone that at least it's not a whole mess of them. Mess of pirates is a terrible stink, but there shouldn't be more than we can handle.
So
Leandro will whip a scented handkerchief from his pocket and hold it to his nose, thinking, yes, poor old Skinner knows all about smells.
The stink of pirates. So I think we're at the position where we can maybe move to an engagement roll. I want to talk about what that means in terms of this game, and I want to talk about the mechanics of play once we get into an engagement. So the way this works with Forged in the Dark is you decide essentially what kind of plan it is, and I'll have you fill in a detail on that plan. And then we look at the circumstances that are in your favor and circumstances that are against you, and we do a roll to see where we start, whether you're in a position that is in control or dangerous or really bad. That's our engagement roll. Once we get into play, we do the standard rolls for actions. If something happens to you, you'll suffer what's called a consequence. And a consequence can be wounds, it can be bad positioning, it could be alerting people. All of those things are things that you can resist. And that's how you use up your stress, is resisting those consequences. There are a couple other ways that you can use stress. You can spend 2 stress to give yourself an additional die and then take the 2 highest. Or you can also spend 1 stress to help someone else. Rather than spending your 2 stress, you can do a stress to help them. The other thing is, because we're not doing a big planning segment or anything like that, we've got a little bit of plans in place. You can flash back to preparations, and that will cost a stress depending on how sophisticated a thing you're flashing back to. And usually that involves narrating and giving a skill roll to see if you've got that in place. But we'll come to that as we go through. Does this seem to you, and at risk of asking the sort of polling open table, I want to, that this is the captain shaping this, but you can get your crew's insight. Does this feel like a plan about assaulting and finding the point of attack? Is it about deceiving and finding the method of deception? Is it about stealth and finding the point of infiltration? Or is it about making a social connection and negotiating to get your way in? What do you think is your approach here?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The question I asked Tadeo about the leverage was thinking that we might put the arm on Voss. But I have to say, since then, I'm increasingly confident that sloop to sloop, I think we got the edge, because we've got Filomeno, and Filomeno is a genius. Right,
but it sounds like what we're doing with Voss is we're putting leverage on him so that we can sneak up on the pirates and catch them unprepared, so that they don't even really have a chance to fight ship to ship. So I think maybe this is deception.
Deception or stealth, using Voss to help you get in. I'm good with either of those.
I guess, or social if we're trying to get Voss to turn. But
that's the bit I'm struggling with, I think, mechanically, is that what we could end up with is stealth to get there, social to turn Voss.
And actually, I think we can see that stealth is probably our first stage. You want to get there, and you have some dirt to work on Voss, but you want to get into position such that you can get on board the island. You can communicate back to your people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
It sounds like Voss is the detail of a stealth play, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In that case, then let's look at that particular role. Let's so the engagement role it is a fortune roll, which means we just do straight 2d6, and we're going to determine our modifier based on our advantages. So let's look at the advantages and disadvantages. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? I think so. This is a pirate that is in its lair. So you are going in on that. I don't think it's particularly complex or contingent on a bunch of factors. Does the plan detail expose a vulnerability of the target? Voss, I think you've established that, so that's a vulnerability. Is the target strongest against this approach? No, but this is their base. So they do have some preparations and some defenses there. So I think we're at a +2. We're going to take it back down to a +1. Can any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight? I think we've established that you have gotten that. So let's take that back up to a +2. We haven't established any particular enemies that are working against you because there weren't any particular fails on that. So I think we're going to be at a +2 on this engagement roll. Captain, my captain, would you roll 2d6?
Yeah, I'd forgotten about this. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, +2. Oh, that's 10.
Look at you. So you've waited until it's a moonless night. You've scouted out the area ahead of time, and you have dropped anchor. And we come upon the four of you having made your way into the town. You can see, once you've gotten inside the town and have kind of moved in, you can see in the distance just the littlest bit of the top of a mast on an inlet a little ways away from the town that tells you that, yes, Rabiza is there. But right now, you are at Voss's house. You have made your way in there. You are there. Do you want to be at Voss's house, or do you want to be where Voss's son is?
If we go for the sun, then we could take the sun and threaten the sun's health.
Yeah, good old hostage.
Does that seem the way to go?
It certainly lets us walk in with a bit of leverage when we do see Voss.
So in that case, you have arrived quietly at the inn that's on the island, and it's more of a big common house. There are villagers there, and you can see that there are what are clearly some of Rabiza's men on shore drinking here. So it's a little bit rowdier than you would have expected in a bar of these numbers. And you will see that various party going on, and you've been given a description of Voss's son, and he is a tall, lanky gentleman who, while he's unable to grow a beard, it's all patchy around his face, he has worked very carefully to cultivate a luxurious mustache. And it is waxed and coiffured and very carefully maintained. And he is there with a couple of his entourage, and they are drinking. So let's come to our firebrand. How do you think you want to approach this? What do you want to do?
I think we want to get him to go outside the inn. So
how would you do that? Are you going to go and talk to people? Are you going to put a hex on him to make him need to pee?
That's sort of what I was thinking. Was to put a suggestion into his head. I'm going to put an image in his head of a woman that he was talking to recently, who asked him to meet outside, and what is that what does that magic look like when you do that? When you call on those powers, what do we see on screen? How does that work? Right. Well, I've got some mystic implements as part of my equipment, and I think I am. I think I've got an amulet, and I'm going to sort of enchant some ale and then switch it with his ale, so that when he drinks it, it sort of puts his mind in a state where I can make this mental suggestion. I like it. So I think that having those implements is certainly going to allow you to have a pretty decent effect.
So let's have you roll with a tune. So roll 2d6 plus 2.
That's a 7.
That is a 7. So the consequence that I'm going to offer you, which you can resist, is that there is a person with a little bit of the gift in the bar. One of the crew from Rabiza's, maybe even Rabiza's mystic worker, who will, while he won't detect this, he will pick up that something is odd, and the general alert level for Rabiza's crew will go up a couple of ticks. Are you good with that, or would you like to resist that consequence?
How does resisting the consequence work?
So here's how this works: is you would do this with resolve, and right now, because you have a dot in attune and a dot in sway, you have a resolve of 2. So you'd roll 2d6, and we take whatever the highest is. So let's say you rolled 5. You rolled a 5 on that die. We subtract that from 6. So you take 1 stress to resist that consequence. Of course, you could roll really low, and it might cost you 3 or 4 stress. But you've got 9, so there's nothing to worry about.
Sure, I'll resist the consequence.
So roll 2d6.
So that's a 1 and a 3.
So you're going to take 3 stress, which you'll see up at the top above your harm things. And essentially, there is that moment when we see the soothsayer kind of look around and then goes back to his cups and doesn't pay any attention to it. But we see Voss's son pick up the mug that you've dipped your Beazar into and slugs it back. And within a minute or two, we can see him kind of looking off in the distance, almost daydreaming. And he will stand up, and he wanders outside to look for this beautiful dream woman, which brings us to Old Skinner or Philomeno, who wants to strong arm this fellow.
Go ahead, Philomeno. I think I'm going to be good cop if you want to be bad.
I mean, I do have a definitely going to work incapacitating mechanical eel, so I think I'll just sort of like maybe Old Skinner will like go to move, and I'll like put my hand on his chest and be like, "Don't worry, I've got this." And I unwrap a ghillie from around my neck. And I walk forward, holding it basically like a hand cannon, essentially.
Okay.
And I walk up.
Walk up to this gentleman?
Yeah, I walk up to him. I'm just like,
who are you?
Excuse me, I don't suppose you have that. And I sort of like start trying to I basically try to shoot off a ghillie and stun him. All
right. So could I have you roll me just a flat d6?
A flat d6. All right. That is a 6.
That is a 6. So here's what happens. When you do that, there's an arcing spark across you. And he flies back a good foot and hits the wall. But you'll also hear a sss, and then that cannon that you have with you on the spider legs goes off. And boom! And blows out the side of this bar. Just grape shot, splatters over it, shatters it out, just a huge boom. The Voss's son is not injured, but he is unconscious on the ground. And now there's this kind of smoldering hole in the roll, and this boom is echoing across the grounds. Old Skinner, what do you do?
I look over and go, "You shouldn't have done that." And
what do you mean? It went perfectly.
I'm going to move over and grab Voss's son and just chunk him over my shoulder. And I'm trying to move back and away. My friend can explain to these folks once I've taken sun out of sight what's going on here.
So, are you trying to like fade into the night here a little bit?
I am. We're in worse shape if we see the mayor's son unconscious beside us as well.
Right. Grabbing him up and running. I think that is going to be Prowl.
Okay. I'm not good at that particularly.
Now, hang on, though. Don't forget that you can spend 2 stress.
I can.
It gives you advantage, right?
It was great.
All right. So I will spend 2 stress. That does give me advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to drop in a die and then I'll roll all 3.
Let's see it.
Dropping in the die. And now rolling up 3.
Can teamwork work here?
Because he's pushed himself to give himself the extra die, you can't supplement that by...
They don't stack.
They don't stack.
But I managed to get a 10.
You get a 10. So tell me what that looks like.
I lift him up and there's that, kind of a guy used to manual labor. It's just sort of a flop onto my back. And I suggest you come up with a good story. I'll meet you at the mayor's house. And I just, despite the fact that I seem to be swaying side to side, carrying this guy, my bandy legs all akimbo, as soon as I kind of get out of the little bit of light that's there, just fade away quietly into the underbrush.
You will hit the underbrush and rush out, and you fade. You have the advantage that the smoke and all of this noise, the people in the bar kind of picking themselves up from this. Captain Leandro, what do you do?
I think that because I gain XP when I put myself at risk to protect my ship or crew, while they beat a hasty retreat, I will stand nonchalantly outside the bar.
So you are going to kind of attempt to interpose and draw the attention of these people that might be coming to see what the hell just happened?
Indeed.
All right. Let me ask Antonio and Filomeno before I resolve that. If you see the captain brace himself to kind of let you two get away, would you two scamper?
Well, what does Antonio do?
Right. Well, I'm still in the bar, so I think I'm going to try to distract people from immediate pursuit by shouting that there are wounded people. Help me treat the wounded, so that at least some of them will take. It'll take a minute or two for everyone to sort of get out of the bush.
So it sounds to me almost like we've got you two, like one of you assisting the other one to kind of control the situation. Does that seem like a fair read on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. And as that goes on, Filomena, would you fall back?
I mean, I was told to tell a good story to these people, so. But if the captain tells me to fall back, I will.
Go with Skinner. Rendezvous at the mayor's house, and take that damn machine of yours with you.
Sort of nod. All right. I'm sort of like petting Kelly. I'm saying, "What's wrong? What's happened?" I sort of walk off.
Spark.
And you are in a heavy loadout, aren't you? Is that?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so you look like you're armed for bear. So, then let's see. I think that how we want to do this is, Captain, we'll have you roll, and Antonio is assisting you. And the way that this works is you're going to give him advantage, Stephen. It's going to cost you 1 stress to do that.
Cost me 1 stress.
It'll cost Antonio 1 stress to assist you.
Okay.
And
that pushes me up to 4 stress, but
all
I have to do is escalate the situation, and I can get rid of some stress.
Exactly. There's no reason to worry at all. There's no reason to worry. So, Captain, you've got advantage. What do you think you're going to be rolling to do this persuasion here?
I burst into the bar and I point in the opposite direction from the mayors, and I use command to say, "Men, they went that way."
Let us have you roll with command, with advantage.
Plus
There's
1.
almost no chance that you could fail.
Do you want to bet? So the best 2 dice are 5. Command is 1. So that's 6.
That is a 6.
How would a flashback at this point work, or should I have invoked that before I rolled?
Flashback is to set something up. We're already gone to the roll resolution, so I don't think we can really do a flashback here. What I'm going to suggest is I'm going to give you a couple of consequences.
Okay.
And you're going to decide which of them you want to resist. Does that seem fair? I think the 2 consequences are A, them grabbing you and throwing you to the ground in a tackle, and B, them stabbing you. So you have a choice of physical harm to resist, or getting essentially trapped and held by them.
Oh, I think I will duel that knife away.
Okay. So that will be a prowess roll for you to avoid getting stabbed.
I'm presuming that push myself to choose my swashbuckling thing wouldn't apply mechanically at this point, would it?
Yes, it would. You could do that. Now, and the way that pushes means you spend 2 stress and you get that.
Okay. So as the knife man comes at me, I will disarm him elegantly, or that is the intent.
Okay.
So I'm rolling 2d plus.
So it'd be for the prowess you're going to roll for resist. We're going to have you roll 2 dice to see how much stress, and then you're pushing yourself for 2.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so.
And I'm going to say that by doing that push and the swashbuckling, I think you can resist both consequences. I think that's what that's going to give you. Does that seem like a fair way to do that?
Okay.
But let's see how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah, well, my highest roll is 2.
So that's going to cost you a total of 6 stress.
Oh.
However, by resisting that, you and Antonio have managed to get out of the grip and the stabby range of this very angry group of people who are rushing about. Skinner, in the distance, and you'll see me, if you could see me on camera, you'd see me cupping my hand to my ear. You can hear that the situation has gotten worse rather than better. And Filomeno is hot on your tail, but Antonio and the captain seems to be holding the fort.
All right. It's probably not hard for me to hear Filomeno behind me, since he's clumping along in heavy gear.
Yes.
So I think I'll kind of slow a bit and say, it seems as though the captain is giving us a momentary distraction.
Yes.
Are you going to make your way to the mayor's house then, as you were talking?
Yeah. How about you hang on to the boy here, and maybe I could have a quiet word with the mayor while everybody's looking at the pub and all.
That seems wise.
And so we see you cut through the night and arrive at the mayor's house. Are you politely knocking? Are you kicking in the door? He's probably up by this now because of the sound of the cannon.
I think I'm going to politely knock and wait for him to open the door and sort of shove in.
And that's the thing. You knock, and the door is opened very quickly by this man in this long yellowed nightshirt. Has a cap on, has a little thing with the candle in it. He's clearly gotten up to see what's going on, and you shove past him, and he says, "What is the meaning of this?"
Shit. Sir, come here a
Who
moment.
are you, you leather-skinned golem?
That's a good one, sir. I should tell you, things are about to change here, and you have the opportunity, sir, to be on the right side of change. Now, you could make a foolish decision, sir. I'd hate it. But then you'd be on the wrong side of change. Now, we got your boy. We're about to evict your visitors in a most unpleasant fashion.
I see.
If you help us in our little endeavor here, you'll have your city or your town and your boy back. And no more of these pirates. And whatever might have been the reason you let them here, that can be forgotten.
I think I'm going to have you roll sway.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you advantage because you have Filomeno standing behind you with a mechanical serpent and his boy.
Excellent. All right. Come on, Skinner. Well, that's an 8.
Mm-hmm. So he is clearly going to agree, but you can tell that he's probably going to try and backstab you at the first opportunity. Unless you like to resist that consequence and convince him fully that would not be in his interest.
I think I do want to resist, and due to my scar, I think I feel the burning on my chest that tells me the danger from this guy. So I'm like, I will try and resist. And
resist with resolve.
All right.
That's 3 dice for you.
It is. I'm good at that one.
Yeah.
And I got a 3, so that's 3 stress.
3 stress. He sees the scar, he sees the sinuous electric serpent, and he's like, all right, well, I will, if you give me my boy, I will go back to bed and not ring the bell for the local guards or anything of that sort, which they'll be expecting, and keep things quiet.
I'm asking you this, and Skinner thinking it through. I had sort of hoped that maybe he'd roust the guard and we'd go off together and take these pirates out. Do I think that's probably asking too much? Will the guard probably not follow it? Or is that a viable thing?
Let's roll back here. I think that is a reasonable statement of intent. Mm-hmm. And I think you did well enough that you're going to get them to give some aid, like to let you pass through and help set you up. They're not going to be too particularly helpful because they don't want to get in the middle of this, but he will ring the bell for his essentially local militiamen to come here, and will say in his bravest voice, "Oh, it looks like pirates have entered into the bay unexpectedly and without any sort of assistance from anyone locally. We must do all post-haste actions to roust and remove them, and these fine gentlemen have arrived to assist us in said matter." And one of them goes, "Oh, sounds good, Mayor, but you do know the tavern's on fire." Yes. Well, there are things that happen. Fair enough. And they are beginning to kind of spread out. I'm going to cut back to Antonio and the captain, and I want to come back to Filomeno. Does that seem like a fair jump order there? Captain Antonio, you two are getting away, but there are a group of Rabiza's men who are kind of chasing after the two of you. You could make your way back to the mayor's house, though you're hearing the bell. The mayor is calling the militiamen. You could try to make it back to the boat. You could try and do something else. What would you like to do, you two?
I think as we're running, I'm saying to Antonio, boat or mayor, I'm inclined to the boat. Get back to the ship.
Right. We don't want to tip them off that we're suborning the mayor. So yeah. So we want to get back to we want to get back to the boat, but we need to lose them first.
Indeed. Do you see yon barn with yon rope hanging from?
The one yonder?
Aye, yonder rope.
Aye, I see it.
Then, lad, when I jump with me.
That seems fair. So you want to run and leap and use that to swing back out of here?
What I'm imagining is that we're running some momentum towards this rope, and what I think is keeping that rope taut is a sack of meal, and so we will jump to the rope. I will slice the meal free, and we will fly into the air to, in the words of the move, and land anywhere you want within sight.
Interesting. Okay.
And so we will appear to have disappeared.
I like that. Go ahead and push. So that's going to cost you 2 stress.
It is. I'm going to be in no condition for anything when we get back to the boat. But what a ride. And so I leap for it. And what would you like me to roll, if
You
anything?
don't have to roll. You push yourself, and it says you push yourself, and you get to do one of those things. So there's not even a roll with that.
And we fly into the air and disappear from the pursuers.
Okay. Antonio, after this amazing swing through the night back to the ship, what are you doing?
Okay.
Are you ordering the men to pull away anchor? Are you getting other things together? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to as soon as everybody is back on board. I mean, even before they get back on board, I'm getting the crew organized so that we can pull out as soon as everyone is there. And yeah,
that seems good. So we'll come back to you on that. But you are getting the ship ready to go. It looks like some of the Verbiza's crew are going for their ship. Some of them are kind of locked up with some of the militia, so he's a little short-handed right now. That is what's happening there. Philomena, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still with Old Skinner, right?
Yeah.
So were we planning on, like, what was the original plan here? Were we going to come and attack this person by boat, by land?
As far as I was thinking, we were going to get Mayor here to turn against them, so we didn't have to fight whole town. And I was thinking the 4 of us were going to sail the boat to, try and take off the head while we signaled in the ship to come in and they'd surrender. That was my hope.
Yeah. I mean, I think we established that if we got the mayor's cooperation, we could get the information we needed to approach the pirates' base without them realizing that we're a hostile ship until it's too late.
They're just in chaos right now rather than fooled in any way.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think maybe I like stare over at like the burning tavern, right? We sort of see me sort of like stroke my chin, and I say, Skinner, I have an idea.
Oh dear, sir.
What if we caught their boat on fire?
Well, sir, it would be quite effective, but we would get paid somewhat less for a burnt boat, sir.
I thought we were capturing the pirate.
But the boat's worth rather a lot, sir.
Right.
Your electricity bit there, though.
I mean, if it's just a small fire.
Just a bit on fire. I say, oh, well, perhaps we should get back to the boat, unless we want to come at them from the land as well, on the other side.
I suggest maybe we do that, sir. Between the two of us, we could cause a bit of a distraction, perhaps even get this Rabiza while the ship comes in, boards, and, well, there's Bob's your uncle.
I like it. I'll have to get Ginny working again.
So the two of you are going to try and hightail it back to the ship, at which point you can bring the ship into an advantageous position to take on the other ship.
No, I think the two of us are going to the pirate ship and hoping that when the ship comes in, we could be of help already on board ship to...
Okay.
Yeah, we're attacking from the land.
Yeah.
So let us have the two of you. This is going to be a prowl roll. And the way we can do this is essentially one person will lead this roll. And the other person will also roll. And the person who's leading it will essentially take the two highest, the highest of the two rolls. But if either of you fail, you take a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
So
I'll probably lead it because I have no stress right now.
that sounds great.
And I would like to push myself to
Sure.
in bonus die because I don't have any prowl.
Then let's have you roll your prowl. And Skinner, let's have you roll your prowl.
Roll my spare dice. And reroll these. All right, so I got a 10.
Got 10. So you are in great shape. And Skinner, what did you roll?
I got an 11.
So you two are the knight. Moving along the darkness, coming along, there's sounds of fighting between the militia and the pirates. You can see that there are perhaps half of Rabiza's crew kind of getting ready that are pulling up anchor right now. There's lots of shadowing and arguing about what's going on. Rabiza is up on deck. He is marked with a set of silver tattoos running down half of his face that kind of lead up to his earring. It almost looks like Mercury kind of running along there, and they are trying to get themselves set and in position. And the two of you have come up to do that. So, Captain and Antonio on the ship. Are you trying to maneuver your ship to get closer?
I think so.
Okay.
I imagine I am clinging to some rigging near the front of the ship. And am I right in thinking that we have the capacity to fire electricity?
I believe that was the Righteous Storm. Runs electricity as an aura of lightning, cannot be boarded by hostiles, and the PC and the crow's nest can attack with lightning. So
as we come around the headland into this bay, surrounded by the crackling aura of our electricity, a ghostly aura even, with the Flying Dutchman on the sharp end, Antonio, how feel you of the crow's nest?
On my way, Captain, and I'm climbing up into the crow's nest, getting. And I am.
So let's start with the helm. Leandro, are you at the helm or are you commanding the helmsman, do you think?
I think I'm commanding the helmsman.
Okay.
Which one is more advantageous mechanically?
That would be command, which you have a point in. So
Fun.
let's have you roll a command roll to see how well you get your crew in order to kind of move in to cut them off. Probably cut more people.
Leandro is clearly the most incompetent captain. He should have gone back to school. That's 5 + 1 is 6.
So here is the consequence that you may resist. That you go left when you should have gone right, and the consequence is that you're going to run the ship aground.
To be honest, I think I dare not at this point take the risk of the stress that a failed resist would be.
Then your ship is going to be... Now, here's the thing with teamwork. Because you have a friend there, it is possible for Antonio to teamwork and resist that consequence for you.
That sounds like something I should do.
Because he'll have a perfect view from up there, won't he?
Exactly.
Yeah, yes. I go, the other left!
Then Antonio, you're going to be resisting with resolve.
Okay.
So you roll 2d6. Take the highest and subtract it from 6.
They are both 6s.
Then not only do you resist it, you criticaled, so you get 1 stress back. Damn it.
You're standing in the first mate stakes have just gone up.
Yes. So yeah, you start to go that, and you hear that cry from Antonio, maybe even a whisper on the arcane wind of "No, Captain," and you kind of spin the wheel the other way. So the ship has slid in, not in the greatest position. You haven't gotten the advantage that you really hoped to, but you're not in a disadvantageous position. Antonio, do you want to light up some of those crew with the lightning?
Absolutely, and I think I would probably push myself to get an extra die.
Sure, and you can do that with a tune, since a tune is used for these kind of weird things.
Okay, so
unleash hell, Antonio.
9.
That is a 9. So I think the consequence is that you will be able to you'll hit that'll crackle across and stun some of the crew, but I think that's also going to discharge all of the lightning in that lightning cannon. Now you can resist that, or you can take that as a consequence.
I mean, I'll go ahead and resist that. I've still got a little stress left over.
Okay, then let's have you roll with resolve, another 2 dice, and then I'm going to come to Filomeno and Old Skinner.
And that's a 6 and a 4.
Okay, so you don't take any stress, and that lightning gun is still charged up. Filomeno, you've rushed. They haven't quite gotten the anchor lines up. You see your own ship get into this small bay, but not with like as good a position as you would have liked. Some of the crew has just been stunned by this flash of lightning. Rabiza and maybe less than half the crew are operating here, trying to get the ship in order to try and break out, or maybe even ram. You're not sure. What do you want to do?
Yeah, so their anchor is still down.
Yes.
So I would like to prevent that anchor from being pulled up.
Ooh, how do you?
So my current thought is to electrify it.
Interesting.
Right. I mean, might as well.
Yeah, I like that. You've got the snake. We've
Yeah.
established that as in the fiction as something you could try and do that with. Yeah. Does that seem like a tinker roll?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So I just take Jenny and I just sort of go, all right, girl, you've got another chance. And I just start swinging it around essentially like a fucking bolas. I'm going to try and throw it at him.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and have you roll tinker.
And I'm going to go ahead and push myself.
Please do. 2 stress.
All right, to roll all 3 of these dice. That is an 11.
That is an 11. So tell me what that looks like. What do we see on screen?
Yeah, so I think what we probably actually get like a shot away from me. I said, we see me just like throw this egg, and it probably makes this like hissing noise as it sails through the air. Then it latches onto the chain, or maybe we see like a person elsewhere in the ship, like reach out and like grab the metal handle and start trying to turn it up.
Mm-hmm.
And the snake latches onto the chain, starts electrifying it, and they just go and they fall over.
And there's already lightning that's been flashing around, so they kind of cry out as that's going on. And Skinner, your ship has kind of got them locked in. The anchor is down. Antonio is firing from the bridge. The captain is trying to figure out left from right. What are you doing?
I think that since we've got this chaos going on, I'm hoping that I can move up to where I see Rabiza, and I'm going to pull out, let's see here, an unusual weapon, which is my flaying knife.
Okay.
It's kind of scary looking. And I'm hoping to move up to Rabiza and say, "It's all up, Captain. Lay down your arms, or you're going to get a little nicking now, aren't you?" As I have my my flaying knife there close towards his face.
All right.
Good phone. Shut up.
So that sounds to me like command.
Excellent.
So we see you. We've already, as Filomeno has been electrifying this anchor. We see you clambering up the side. You're in the midst of these people. There's chaos. The lanterns haven't been lit because they kept it dark so people couldn't see the ship. And they're trying to light that up, but they're having poor success. And then suddenly you're up by Rabiza, and let's have you roll that command. You want to roll well.
And I am going to stress myself. Taking me up to 7.
Delicious.
Yes. All right. Here we go. 5, 6, 7. That's an 8.
That is an 8. So I think that you will get him to make that pause. And you've got him held for the moment. Like, now this is a consequence you can resist. Like, you've gotten kind of a reduced effect in Forged in the Dark terms. You could resist that and try and push it all the way.
I've got 2 stress left.
But you've got a resolve of 3. There's almost no chance that you could fail.
Oh, lol.
Steven got back stress when he rolled.
Oh, lol. I will resist.
Okay.
All right. Come on, you can do it. 4.
So you're going to take 2 stress. So you are right at that cusp.
I am at my max.
1 more, and you are going to trauma out.
Oh.
But you see him stop, and he sees the wicked knife in your hands, and he shouts out, "Hands up, men! Hands up! Stand down!"
Good decision, Captain.
And he says, Surely, gentlemen such as yourselves, we can work out an understanding and agreement of some kind here."
I'll leave that for the captain to decide there, sir. And don't call me Shirley. That's all right.
And they will stop. The militia grab up some of the pirates and pull them to clap them in what chains they have. And Rabiza has his men stand down, drop weapons, all of that. And he will wait till you arrive to parley with him, Leandro.
The children of the storm are victorious again, men. And we'll
shouting from your crew, the excitement of that. They were a little worried because the explosion earlier that wasn't part of the plans, but now that they seem to have recovered from that uncertainty.
And I think that we will then elegantly dock the what did we call the ship?
It is the Inclement.
Inclement. We'll dock the Inclement next to Rabiza's ship and accept the surrender and stow them below decks.
And he says, Master Captain Leandro, I know you and your crew are legendary pirate hunters. And I know that now you could certainly put us below decks and take our ship and all of that sort of thing. But perhaps I'm wondering maybe we could converse on this matter.
I will hear you, Rabiza.
You are an honorable gentleman. What if I could give you directions to bigger prey?
Speak on, Captain.
And he says, the Skull Brothers. They are a cadre of pirates. We are small fry, good sir, but they are brigands and murderers. And I know where they have their lair, and I know the passage through the maze.
I'm just wondering, how do I judge whether I believe him?
I think that would be study or survey.
Then I think I will study this man.
Okay.
So that's, I've got 1 in study, so 2d6 plus 1. Oh, that's 11.
He's being truthful, in part because he's got information that's sort of dangerous, and handing it off in this way gets it out of his hands, and also maybe it gets him some advantage here. He understands he's not walking away with his ship, but his freedom and maybe his crew's freedom is what he's looking for.
Captain, I will keep your crew, and you will show us that passage. And if you prove trustworthy and truthful, then you may go free.
That seems a fair enough deal. Can the one with the wavy knife, can he put it down now?
As you were, Skinner.
Oh, sir.
And so I think we will stow the crew below decks. We'll need to put a prize crew aboard this sloop. He will be a guest on the Inclement.
Mm-hmm.
And we will go forward from there.
And I think that's actually, we're going to have to stop because we are at 2.5 hours. But maybe at some point we'll take this up again. If the 4 of you are so inclined at some point, because I would like to play a little bit more and maybe try some of the other phases. Does that seem okay?
No, I'd love to.
Sure, but yeah. I will be away from home for the next couple of weeks.
So yeah, I
might
think
have to schedule without me.
Post Gen Con is probably we're talking. We'll look at sometime in August, and maybe we'll see if we can work out, because I know Tyler has the afternoons that are available, and I work from home, so we can maybe work that out. I'll send an email after Gen Con, and we'll see if we can work out some times.
Okay.
Well, I enjoyed this. I hope this was okay for trying this out, sort of getting a sense of this. Tyler, thoughts?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it brought a lot of it has a lot of the flavor of being out at sea. There was a lot of really cool stuff. I liked the ships as the crew sheet from Blades. I'm still not entirely sure what I think of using the PBTA rolls instead of the blades rolls, but it worked well. There's just a couple of things that, because of the simplicity of it, get lost a little.
Yeah, you lose some of the things about position and effect that, for me, are important parts of Forged in the Dark. That I want to see. What are the interesting things that we're gaining from that? I do like it. I mean, I think it works. Stephen, was something else you want to say, Tyler?
No. I was just agreeing. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Stephen, I knew we threw you in the deep end, literally and figuratively here, for the system. I hope that was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have a general sense of how scores work in Forged in the Dark in general, and how the stress economy of the game is meant to work.
Yeah. So what would be the next phase is we have the downtime phase, and during that phase is when people indulge in standard Forged in the Dark. They go and indulge in their vice, or in this case, they go and speak with their anchor, and that helps clear their stress. And you don't want to do that too much. Like, you don't want to overindulge. But so that economy does mean you're getting back that stress, and doing that. And that's the thing we'll see when we kind of go through phases with that.
Yeah, and sort of the way I was rolling, I didn't really need to conserve stress.
I know. What was up with that? That's crazy. That's crazy. I love that, though. And Alan, what thoughts?
Well, I'm hugely relieved because I'm running it in 10 days. So now I've got some idea how it works. So thanks for that, Lowell.
Oh, yeah.
And you see, I quite like the PBTA add-in. It's a bit clunky in as much as you've got sometimes you roll d6s and you're interested in what the highest roll is. Sometimes you're rolling the straight, 7 to 9, 10, whatever. So that's a little bit odd. But part of the challenge I have with Blades is that stuff about positioning and risk. So I think this is simpler. I think it probably suits the kind of swashbucklingness.
That's
of
true.
The game.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I would like to play an Odyssey phase. I'd like to have a sea battle, I must say, because I'm very curious to see how that works. I'm going to strictly avoid that in 10 days, I have to tell you.
I know. I think so. I think you've got to do essentially set up and a good adventure with some twists, and maybe try out downtime to show them that. But I think that's reasonable. There's also a really interesting set of mechanics for handling trade and getting goods and so on.
So I think it's got long-term possibilities. I think you could run for a while. So
Definitely.
No, I had a great time. Thank you.
Good. Adam, this is the first time I got to play with you, and it was a pleasure. I love you leaning into the tinkering. That was great.
Yeah. I certainly am. I have some concerns about this rule set. I think, like, from like a flavor standpoint, switching to the PBTA things is probably fine. But I cannot imagine that the math works even remotely similarly.
Yeah, I think there are some changes. I think that she's working on making some tweaks to that. But I'm not sure. I think it may be a little gentler than Blades, which may be intentional.
Maybe. I don't know. It just feels like messing with the core mechanic of Blades in the Dark would be kind of like trying to fiddle with the core mechanic of PBTA. Seems like that'd be one of the things that would be like the most technical to design around and most likely to break the system if you changed it.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, and it's certainly something to keep an eye out for. I mean, we've seen some other games that have messed with PBTA, like is it Cult that uses 2d10 and like 4 or 5 different levels of success for PBTA. But yeah, I am curious. Because some people are more comfortable with PBA 2d6, and so it may give some advantages. But I think your question about the math is a reasonable one.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your playing today with me here at a kind of short notice and being willing to play with me with no face. I was so irritated by not having the camera because I can't do my face expressions and gesture at the camera and all of that, so we lose some of it. So thank you all very much. I'm going to stop the broadcast